Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Khadem India Limited Q4 FY21 earnings conference call hosted by Nirmal Bang Institutional Equities Private Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Girish Pai from Nirmal Bang Equities. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Nirmal Bang Institutional Equities, I welcome you all to the interaction with the management of Khadem Limited to discuss the 4Q FY21 results. We have with us from the management Mr. Siddharth Roy Burman, Chairman and Managing Director, Ms. Namrata Chotrani, CEO, Mr. Indrajit Chaudhary, CFO. Without further ado, I will hand over the floor to the Khadem management to make their opening comments, after which we'll open the floor for Q&A. Over to you, Mr. Burman.
Namaskar. Good evening, everyone. We welcome you to this conference call to discuss the fourth quarter result of financial year 2021. Hope everyone continues to be safe, and I would like to start off appreciating the relentless effort of our COVID warriors. After a positive festive season in Q3, normalcy had started to set in people's lives. This was reflected in the consumer behavior and recovery numbers. We grew with a healthy pace in retail and distribution. With regard to both retail and distribution, the focus in Q4 has been to consolidate the outstanding and inventory holdings. This has helped us have a linear balance sheet. We have also seen a substantial improvement in gross margin in both retail and distribution business. All the metrics are showing a turnaround in the positive direction. Over the years, our company has stood the test of time and emerged stronger for the challenges it has faced. Financial year 2021 was the toughest challenge faced not just by Khadem's but by the industry and world at large. Coming to our performance for Q4 FY21. On year-to-year basis, the revenue was 70.6% at rupees 269.90 crore. The revenue also revised a boost from an institutional order from Educational Department of Uttar Pradesh government for rupees 128 crore to supply school bags. Gross margin in retail and distribution business improved to 47.6% and 38.5% respectively. EBITDA and PAT turned positive at 14 crore and rupees 11.5 crore respectively, compared to losses in Q4 20. Even though there was a setback due to the second wave, leading to another round of lockdown and store closure in April and May, our team is motivated to put their best foot forward and drive the company to a still new heights. We are working on the vaccination effort for our staff. We will continue to focus on sustainable value creation from our resilient business. Despite the recent lockdown, we are optimistic that the demand for the affordable fashion will only increase. We are looking forward to put the worst of the pandemic behind us and delighted our customer with exciting products. We have come up with a very young and vibrant range of spring-summer, festive and autumn-winter collection. We are looking forward to seeing the response from our customers. We thank you for continuing support and remain confident on emerging stronger as our strategic plans remain intact. We can now proceed question and answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, We'll wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask the question. The first question is from the line of Deepan Shankara Narayan from Trustline Portfolio Management Service. Please go ahead.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity and good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, wanted to understand so during Q4, have we seen the trend of customer moving to higher price points and also of higher order value?
Hi, Mr. Narayan. Thanks for your question. We have seen an improvement in the customer behavior. Last year, I think, as we mentioned in the previous calls, that the focus was more on the lower price items, and it was more specific to athleisure wear and also a lot of home wear. But in Q3, given the festive season, and after that, given that normalcy kicked in, people started going back to work and started enjoying life normally, which was reflective in the way the consumer also was purchasing, and which is why we saw an improvement in the average billing value and the ASP.
Okay, so what is the kind of ASP and volume growth in retail and distribution business for us?
So in the retail business, we have seen approximately a 3% increase in ASP. And in distribution, we have seen approximately 1 to 2% increase in ASP. The thing is that in distribution, again, the focus for the entire year has been more on open footwear compared to the previous year, and that trend continued till the end of the year. So despite taking whatever incremental price increases and whatever the sales mix that we tried changing, given that the overall ASP growth looks subdued, but in terms of the category for open footwear, there has been a higher increase in ASP.
Okay. And specifically, if we see distribution gross margins has increased from 33% to 37% over past 2-3 years. But yes, growth in revenues have been dropping. So even particularly for the Q4 quarter also, we have seen some of the industry players growing well in distribution. Yes. So what is the main reason for the degrowth in distribution in Q4?
No. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, that there has been a substantial increase in the ASP in the open footwear. Q4, as an example, there has been, in the entire year, there has been an increase of approximately 5%, in the open footwear segment, which is mainly your Hawaii and your PVC and EVA. Why the Q4 there has been subdued growth is purely because, as Mr. Burman mentioned earlier in the call, that the focus for Q4 for us, for both the distribution business and the franchisee business, was to consolidate our outstanding and to make our balance sheet much more stronger. So that did compromise to extent on sales, and we were happy to take that compromise given that we were working on consolidating our outstandings and our balance sheet and our working capital. It also helps to build our business in a more healthy manner. I think, and that's something which we had mentioned on the couple of calls, looking at improving our working capital days and running the business in a more healthy manner.
And if you see in the distribution, the first quarter, there was a lockdown for 1.5 months. But if you see the second quarter, the distribution business grown by 16%, third quarter 35%, and fourth quarter 7%. So in the 3 quarters after the first quarter, the distribution business has grown. We were able to achieve 2% higher sale, selling 10.5 months compared to 12 months in FY20.
Okay, that's good. And finally, the growth in sub-brand contribution has been falling over past 3 years. So if you see 48% it was there in FY18, it has fallen to 40% in FY21. So are we seeing improvement in sub-brands in future, and what are the strategies we are adopting to improve that?
I'm not sure about where you're getting this data, because this may have been the case in FY21, but not necessarily in FY20. The sub-brand contribution as percent of sales, it was almost 60%, and that will continue once normalcy kicks in. That I don't know.
I think FY21 the retail sale has come down from 490 crore in FY20 to 306 crore, and you've seen that after the lockdown, there was a demand for Hawaii chappals and PVC sandal, which are basically Khadim products. So that's why this year there might be the share of sub-brands has come down, but in the normal year, again the sub-brand contribution will be in the range of 58 to 60%.
Okay, thanks a lot and all the best.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and one to ask the question. The next question is from the line of Monica Arora from Share Giants Wealth Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So one of the components, which is rent, is a major part of our expenses. So especially after the second wave of COVID, earlier we had negotiated for the rents and all, but are we again negotiating, or it is back to normal, or what it is, the status I wanted to know?
Last year, if you see the balance sheet and profit and loss account, we have saved around 7.5 crores of rent, which is shown in the other income. Again, this year, after the second wave, we are started the negotiation with the landlord and trying to get the same amount of benefit that we got in during the first wave. But since the lockdown period in second wave is comparatively lower than the first wave, so negotiation means from the landlord end would be a difficult task, but we are trying to get as much benefit as we could.
Okay. Sir, my another question is, we see that these small players, the small private label players or other small players, like they are also present in the online brand. So what is the specific competitive intensity from these players, and how is the competitive intensity otherwise in the sector?
May I know which smaller brands you're referring to, ma'am?
The like smaller brands, like the common brands which are present all over in the online segments. Like there is a brand known as Pink and Blue. It's a Big Bazaar own brand, so they also sell these their online products to this brand through their own platform. There are various small brands which are present on the Flipkart, Ajio.com, Reliance. So these small brands I'm talking about.
No, so I think there are a lot of brands definitely there, even in the online and offline space, but there will always be competition, and it's a healthy thing to happen. We definitely, but having said that, creating a brand, even in today's time, is a very expensive burn, cash burn, and that requires a good amount of investment. The kind of brand recall we have in the country, it has come over many years of sustaining in the market and also giving the kind of products and the offering that we do. So yes, the potential, given that e-commerce and online is definitely picking up, we are also trying our best to ensure that we are available in all the marketplaces. But I mean, you can't stop brands to start coming up, and I think this is a healthy thing to happen. Having said that, also, the affordable fashion is what is here to stay. A lot of the premium brands are doing well, but in the current scenario and even last year, the demand for affordable fashion has only increased. And so I think from our perspective, I think it's a good thing for for the current demand that is coming in.
Okay. Fine. And moreover, we would get edge over these local brands because we market our brands in a better way. Plus, our customers are repeat customers too. Could we see that way?
Yes, definitely. I can say there are a lot of brands that come in. There are a lot of smaller brands, unbranded brands, or even smaller, unorganized players. But potential and the brand recall of a brand like Khadim's is always going to have a better footfall or eyeball compared to any other brand.
Oh,
There's also a trust involved because of the longevity of the brand.
sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and one to ask a question. Participants, you may press star and one to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Deepak Poddar from Sapphire Capital Partners. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
So sorry to interrupt you. You're not audible at all. May I request you to speak over the handset?
Hello.
So the audio is still low.
It's better now?
Little bit.
Okay. So just wanted to understand if any kind of outlook that you can share for FY22, that would be helpful.
Sorry, can you be a little louder than this?
Yeah, sir, any kind of outlook that you can share for FY22, that would be quite helpful.
So frankly, I think FY22 was something we were looking at, trying to ensure that the vaccinations will kick in, and we'll possibly be able to get the same level as FY20, adjusting for the last 15 days as well. But I think given the wave that has started in March, April, and continued in May, and there are people talking about third wave, I think to commit any number or give any perspective on how the market is going to turn is your guess versus mine. But having said that, I think in an ideal scenario, I think we'd like to grow in the retail by around 10 to 12% and distribution approximately 15%. So that's the way ideally we would like to grow. I think, but there's a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity in this time, and I think hopefully in the next few months things will be a little more clear for us to give you a more clear answer as well.
Understood. That's it from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is from the line of Jignesh Makwana from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I have just one clarification. Based on your data, what you have given on a gross profit for the retail and distribution business, if I do the simple math, my gross profit should be somewhere between around 73 crores, but the actual gross profit comes to 60 crores. Are we making losses on the institutional business?
No, there is no losses from institutional business. There are some other elements. If you see the accounts, there are some other costs that are in the gross profit margin. So that cost are attracted in the profit and loss account. But if you see the distribution and the retail business separately, so this is the margin. That is before the Ind AS impact. There are some costs that are deducted from the sales. That's why that margin is coming to 60 crores. But this is the margin before Ind AS adjustment.
Okay. And we have booked institutional orders to the tune of 128 crores in FY21. So how much that revenue we have booked in Q4?
Total revenue is booked in Q4.
Okay. But then again, if I'm doing the mathematics, retail of 106 crores and 59 crores from the distribution and about 128 crores from the institutional business, then my revenue should be higher than 270 crores.
No, I think your whatever math, take that question offline. You can share your Excel sheet. We'll clarify it.
Sure. And what is our growth, particularly the expansion plan for FY22?
Sorry, can you repeat your question? Your voice is a bit blurred.
Yeah. So my question was, what kind of expansion we are looking at in FY22, number of stores expansion on the COCO side?
So in terms of total number of stores, we're looking at expanding approximately 80 to 100 stores is what our target is for the year, including all company-owned outlets and franchisees.
Okay. And lastly, how much price hike we took in distribution business in this particular quarter?
Sorry, can you repeat?
How much price hike we took in distribution business in this particular quarter?
We have taken approximately in the Hawaii and PVC segment, we've taken approximately 10 to 11% hike in the entire year.
Okay. So that means our volume is about lower about 3 to 4% as compared to previous year.
Can you repeat your
Yeah, is it better?
Yes.
Yeah. So does that indicate that we have witnessed a volume decline in distribution business in this particular quarter?
That has already been told because in this quarter we have the credit norms were stricter, and for that the growth is around 7% compared to a 35% growth in Q3.
Okay. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Naitik Modi from OHM Portfolio Equity Research. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. You said in the opening remarks, the CMD said that there's an effort to consolidate the receivables and inventory rationalization. So could you elaborate more on the receivables part? Was it more to do with the distribution business, or is it more to the franchisee business? And how much is already done and how much is still left?
See, the franchisee business, the debtors as on 31st March 2019 was 59 crores. It was 35 crores. December 20, it was 25 crores. And now it has come down to 17.5 crores. In distribution, FY19 it was 34 crores. FY20 it was 41 crores. December 20, 29.92 crores. And March 21 it is 21.16 crores. So in case of franchisee, we try to keep the level at, we are trying to keep the level at 45 days. And in case of distribution, we are trying to keep the level at 30 days.
30 days, okay. So this will be the normalized scenario going ahead.
Yes.
And what was it earlier if I look at 19 and 20?
In franchisee, it was 72 days, and distribution, it was around 50 days.
Oh, okay. Fine. So, all right. And but wouldn't that also sort of also hit your margins? Would you have to take lower gross margins so as to affect this kind of receivable days?
No, the sales was less in the fourth quarter, as you have seen. Distribution growth was around 7%. But you have to take corrective action, and then when the demand comes, the volume automatically grows and the sales will grow, keeping the receivables at the same level.
No, that is fine. I'm not referring to this quarter per se. I'm just saying generally on an annual basis, if you were to reduce your debtor days from, let's say, 72 to 45 in franchisee and from 50 to 30 in distribution, wouldn't that also mean that you will have to take a gross margin hit? I mean, sell them at a lower price so as to affect these kind of working capital days, debtor days.
See, your working capital thing also gets improved. You are saving in finance cost for the working capital. And margin, gross margin doesn't change, because gross margin means if I sell at 45 days or at 70 days, the margin remains the same. But is the better utilization of working capital, which gives you benefit in finance cost.
All right, fine. Anyway, I'll take that up offline with this with you. Secondly, you mentioned that you have booked the entire institutional order of Uttar Pradesh Department in this quarter itself. Is that correct?
Yes.
So which means there is actually a 10% degrowth in your top line for your footwear business, if I were to remove this order.
Yes.
Okay. And what is the sort of gross margins we make in institutional business?
The gross margin, the net margin at around 3.5%.
3.5%.
There was no other cost involved after the gross margin.
Okay, fine. All right, sir. Thank you very much.
No, I think just to clarify to you, I think we've grown in our retail business by around 6% and distribution by approximately 7%.
In the fourth quarter.
That means that
so I'm not sure what.
Fourth quarter FY20 also had an institutional component?
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a small amount, but it wasn't a large amount. It was around 7.5 crores in the last year, fourth quarter.
With both retail and distribution, there is a growth in fourth quarter.
I'm not sure what numbers you're referring to.
So,
you are deducting 128 crores, but the net is 115 crores. So that you should deduct 115 crores from the total sales. 128 is a gross sale.
Okay. All right, sir. All right. Thank you.
I think just clarifying one of the previous question also, that there was a volume growth in the distribution business of approximately in the fourth quarter of approximately 6%. And there was, I think when you're looking at the entire year, there will definitely be a volume degrowth because the first quarter there was no, first quarter was limited growth. So in the fourth quarter there has been a growth of approximately 6% in the volume.
All right. Fine. Thanks. That's helpful.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Gaurav Jogani from Axis Capital Limited. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my questions. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is with regards to the raw material trend. What sort of inflationary trend are you seeing in the raw material? And is the price increases that you have taken is enough to cover that inflation, or you might need to take further price increases?
But can you, your voice is a bit blurred. Can you please speak a bit louder?
Sure. So my question was with regards to the raw material inflation. What kind of raw material inflation are you witnessing in the RM index, and whether the price increases that you have already effected covers this inflation, or you need to take further price increases?
So the price increase in the footwear segment has been extremely high in the raw material space. Just to give you a perspective, across the major raw materials which are used in the footwear segment, it is, you will have EVA, rubber, PU, PVC, and kind of price increases that we have seen over there has been in the range of 40 to 50% in the entire year, over the entire year, from last year to sometime this year. So, and the price increases, but the raw material component, there is a lot of other raw materials which is part of it, of the final product. But I think the price increases that we have taken have adjusted for the raw material price increases also.
Sure.
So now we do not need to take too much further increase to protect against the raw material. But if there is a further price increase, then we may have to take a call accordingly.
Okay. And what about the competition? Has the competition also affected similar price increases? Because our check suggests that the competition hasn't taken similar price increases.
No, so I think the competition also has taken price increases. I think for us in the last 2-3 years, the number of price increases that we were taken was relatively limited. The price differences that we had for similar products was pretty high. So we've tried to reduce the gap by taking multiple price increases this year. Having said that, the competition also has taken price increases. I think 2 price increases in the year for sure. Adjusting for the raw material price increase.
Sure.
The organized players definitely have.
Sorry, just to summarize it, now the pricing premium gap between you and the competition, has it reduced, or has it remained more or less? And are you premium in pricing versus the competition?
Your first question is, has the price increase reduced, and your second question is?
I'm saying, are you at a premium to the competition in terms of pricing, and has that gap reduced? The pricing premium gap, has that reduced?
So I think the pricing gap has definitely reduced in the year. because you've taken these multiple price increases to reduce the gap, because the product differentiation and the quality differentiation wasn't that. And we have a very strong brand recall in the markets that we are present in. Secondly, in terms of whether we are more premium or the other brand is more premium, I think it's subjected to the products. In some products, we are more premium and we can command a better pricing. In some products, they are premium, and we are trying to figure out how to improve in our product or our positioning and our marketing to be able to garner the kind of premium value. So I think it's subjected to the product. I don't think you can generalize totally.
So I was talking on a weighted average level. If you just compare apple to apple or similar products, because you said the pricing premium gap has reduced. So we're just trying to understand who was more premium and who was less premium earlier.
It also depends on the product basket. Some of our competition, the branded and larger competitors, have a good proportion of closed footwear as well in the distribution segment. I'm not talking about the retail here. In the distribution segment, they have a decent proportion of closed footwear as well, which we are trying to build in. I think which we had mentioned in the last couple of calls. The sub-brands focusing on the various product categories across the distribution segment, which will also help us improve our ASP and our margins. So from that perspective, yes, the other brands have a more premium product basket in terms of a larger product basket. But we are getting there. We are focusing a lot on the kind of product mix that we are getting. We are investing in people. We are investing in proper merchandise team, investing in a factory as well to ensure that we're able to create that kind of product base so that we are able to reach that kind of ASPs and margins. In the current product mix that we have, as I said, it is subjected to the product. It's very product specific.
Thank you, and sorry to interrupt you, Gaurav. I'll request you to come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. Participants are requested to ask 2 questions per participant. If time permits, please come back in the question queue for a follow-up question. The next question is from the line of Bhargav from Kotak Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, team. It seems we've lost some market share in the distribution business in the fourth quarter on the back of tightening our working capital. So, is this trend sustainable in terms of tightening of working capital, or will resort to some loosening to grab market share?
Sorry, can you, is this going to tightening the capital or?
No, I mean, if you look at your competitors' growth in the distribution business, it is far superior as compared to your growth.
Yes.
So essentially, it seems like you've lost some market share in an effort to tighten your working capital.
Yeah.
So can we expect similar working capital trends to continue in the distribution business, or we'll sort of resort to our old technique of sort of a bit of relaxed working capital in order to chase volume growth?
No, I think, as I said, the idea was to consolidate our balance sheet and make it more healthy. Having said that, I mean, in the third quarter, we had grown by 30% plus when the competition had not grown at such a healthy rate. Today, we are in the fourth quarter. Yes, we have let go of some sales, but it's not that we'll not be able to get back that sale and that share at all. I mean, we'll definitely get back. We have become stricter with regard to the working capital, and that's something with the distributors also getting used to, and it's a relationship which we are building with them. And that's something which, if any change will require some adjustment from both the sides, from our side and the distributor side as well. And that's a change they are acclimatizing to, and possibly they'll get used to this kind of working capital cycle, and the volume will grow accordingly. So I don't think I'm too concerned about the growth in market share with going forward.
So we will keep at a 30 days level of debtors in distribution business.
That's the target.
And this tightening of working capital happens starting 4Q, or has it happened much earlier?
No, we have started the process from third quarter itself, but we think we got a bit tighter in the fourth quarter. And that's why you're seeing the kind of numbers that you are. In fact, as sometime back, Indrajit narrated the entire reduction in the debtors in both distribution and EBO.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vishal Chopra from UTI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, team. Thanks for taking my question. Actually, my question was largely on the distribution business, which got answered in the earlier participant's question. So actually, no question. Just one thing. Indrajit, is that I think till last quarter in the presentation we were giving the data on the post-Ind AS basis. Now this quarter we are giving on pre-Ind AS, so it gets very difficult to compare when the reported P&L is on different accounting, which is post-Ind AS, while your segmental numbers, margins actually are on pre-Ind AS. So I mean that's why there is a lot of confusion with respect to the growth numbers and all. So, I mean, if it's possible, please revert back to the old way of reporting in the presentation. That will be useful because it's very confusing.
Vishal,
Yeah?
sorry to interrupt you. We lost your audio in the between. Can I request you to repeat your question once again?
No, I was just saying on the presentation, the data we are providing, we are giving on post-Ind AS basis while the pre-Ind AS basis, while actually the results are on post-Ind AS. So it's very difficult to compare the segmental numbers with the reported P&L. So just a request until last.
Vishal.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Indrajit.
Indrajit, the thing is that we used to give at post-Ind AS, but in Ind AS what happens, the selling expenses are booked in different quarters. So it hampers you cannot see the actual margin growth in the business. Because whenever we give the credit note that is adjusted, suppose the credit note third quarter is adjusted in fourth quarter. So what I can give you is that I can give you both pre-Ind AS number and post-Ind AS number. That I can give one-to-one. Otherwise, most of the people will not be able to see what the impact the business has done for a particular quarter. Because the Ind AS expense, suppose in fourth quarter last year, the selling expenses were less compared to fourth quarter this year, because the credit note are given based on the scheme and all these things. So in order to have see the business growth and all these things, we have changed the model. But obviously we have both pre-Ind AS and post-Ind AS figures that I can give one-to-one.
The trouble is just that then we can't correspond to the reported P&L. I mean, when people are trying to back calculate the institutional business, the numbers get all wrong, and even the gross margins on reported basis and segmental basis doesn't correspond to. That's the problem. Anyways, I get your point also. I get your point. But I think, I know there are problems in both methods, but I think it's better if we continue to do it on post-Ind AS basis only. I mean, if that's possible with you guys.
I can share you both pre-Ind AS and post-Ind AS numbers to you.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Shiv Bansal from Lighthouse Funds. Please go ahead. Shiv Bansal, may I request you to unmute your line from your side and go ahead with the question. Shiv Bansal, can you hear us? Due to no response, we move on to the next participant. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Jain from Arihant Capital Markets. Please go ahead.
Sir, thank you for taking my question. I just want to know, because I've joined late on the call, if you can throw on the light key post unlock to how the things are shaping up and which are the segments, which are the regions you are seeing a faster pickup. Can you throw some light on the same, sir?
So the lockdown has just started opening up in some of the states, and I think it's it's not opened up across all the states. Even Northeast Abhi is open till 2:00. Bihar is still opening up 3 days a week. So I think it's still a bit, the lockdown is still not totally opened up, but whatever has opened up, we are seeing that the recovery is a bit better than last year, because I also think that people are relatively they know how to handle themselves. There is more experience in handling the situation compared to last year. So we're seeing the recovery to be better, and hopefully we should be able to this trend should continue, momentum should continue. Fingers are crossed.
And which are the areas or which are the segments you are seeing things are looking good in last 15-20 days, if you can tell?
I think it is compared to last year, given that the impact in the last year was more in the cities compared to tier 3 cities. This year, I think it is we're seeing a similar kind of trend across all the areas. Tier 3 will definitely be a little better, but I think the difference compared to last year has reduced.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and one to ask the question. Participants, you may press star and one to ask the question. The next question is from the line of Harsh Shah from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question. Of the trade receivables which you have recorded in the balance sheet as on March 21 of the 120 crores, how much of the institutional order would be sitting in this amount?
Around out of that 120 crores, 77 crores is from institutional business, institutional data.
Okay. So basically, it's apart from that, it's only 53 crores, right?
Yes.
Trade receivables.
43 crores. 43 crores.
43 crores. I'm sorry, my bad. Okay, fine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and one to ask the question. The next question is from the line of Girish Pai. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Namrata, you came in a couple of years back, and prior to that, Khadim had a decent IPO. Then it went through a challenging phase. What do you think were the issues that Khadim was grappling with at that time, and how have you tackled them as a CEO? And do you think you put all of them behind you? I mean, the problems, or are you still grappling with some of them? And when do you think you'll kind of tackle them? And if you do tackle them, what kind of EBITDA margins pre-Ind AS 116 do you think you can work with on a longer term basis?
Thanks for your question, Girish. Appreciate it. So I think, while we were, I think after I joined, I think just prior to me joining, I think when you were analyzing as to, what has gone wrong, there were a few things in terms of, the way the product range was being structured, the way the premiumization was being structured, the way the gross margin was being addressed, the fixed cost increments. I think there were multiple challenges across, the business, even the way the outstandings are increased, around the franchisee business and distribution business. The focus on product across both the retail and distribution business had reduced. So I think done is essentially try to improvise on the entire range architecture, which I mentioned earlier, to ensure that, it is more relevant to the younger audience, it is more vibrant, more colorful. It is in line with trying to ensure that we are increasing our ASP, we are increasing our gross margin, the conversions increase in the store, the average billing value increases in the store, the UPT increases in the store. So there is more structure in the way we are looking at business. It's a very data-oriented structure that we're looking at the business compared to how it was conducted earlier. There has been a very, very high focus on reducing the fixed cost. There's been a very high focus on improvising the working capital, and that is very apparent in the kind of metrics that we are seeing. There has been an improvement in ASP, there's been an improvement in gross margin, there's been an improvement, and which is visible in the kind of sales increase that we are seeing. There's been an improvement in working capital efficiency, which we are trying to ensure. So these metrics and this trend is definitely here to stay. We're ensuring, we're working on the fact that how to ensure that these metrics continue across both retail and distribution business. And the only thing is right now that is missing is the volumes, which hopefully by Q2 we'll be able to see an upliftment. Q1 has been again a bit much slower than what we were anticipating. So we're very confident to ensure that this trend continues. What kind of EBITDA levels we'll be looking at, I think as we've mentioned earlier, around 10 to 11% is what we're targeting. In the ideal scenario, hopefully we should be able to achieve it sooner than later once things normalize.
Just a couple of more questions. This institutional business, how critical, do you think it's an important business at all, and what kind of margins and return ratios would that business have compared to your either distribution or your retail business?
See, the margin in institutional business is lower, but that margin that we get from 3.5% to 4%, it is back to back with our vendors. So our working capital is not involved in this business, and we are able to generate some margin out of, means without investing any fund.
Okay, my last question is regarding advertising and promotional spend. I don't. Can you give me the number for FY21? And I recall you saying, I think, Namrata, that it will go down to like 1% in FY22. Did I hear that right?
No, I've not made a statement like that as of now, but I think we're not looking at spending more than 1.5% in this year. I think most of the spend will happen now, maybe in end of Q2 during the festive, and maybe post that, depending on how the trend goes. Again, as I said, when you start the year, you have a certain plan and a budget in mind. We had a budget of approximately 2%, but I'm not. But given the way the year has started and with so much ambiguity around in terms of the entire sales coming in, footfalls and lockdowns, to give you an exact number of how we plan to spend the marketing and the advertisement is a bit premature right now. Again, I think we'll take it as it comes and how the year comes around.
What was the number in FY21?
Around 4 crore.
Okay, thank you.
This is pure advertisement. The sales promotion expenses will be separately here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhargav from Kotak Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just one data point. What would be the receivable cycle for this institutional order?
Generally, it's around 6 months.
6 months?
Yes.
So what was the rationale for getting this order? I mean, at one end, we are trying to curtail our receivable cycle. So what would be the rationale for taking up this institutional order then?
As I told in the previous question, that our working capital is not involved in this institutional business. We work on a back-to-back with our vendors. So you are getting a margin without investing any money.
Okay. So would that not be the case with our other businesses? So for our...
Here the stock, you don't hold any stock. It is receivables and creditors. But in other business, there is receivable stock, and if the stock is not sold, then it is a paid stock. But here there is no paid stock, nothing. It's only receivables and creditors. So whenever you get your receivables, you pay to the creditors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Amit Luthra, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I hope my voice is audible.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, and I hope everybody is safe at the other end. Quick 2 questions. So, one is, where do we see ourselves in terms of 3 to 5 years timeline compared to the other brands? And the second is in terms of what's our plan for the EBITDA margins compared to the other brands like Bata and Relaxo, because we are a little lower end. So where do we see ourselves targeting in terms of the same timelines of 3 to 5 years? Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Amit. So I think in terms of next 3 to 5 years, where we are seeing ourselves, I think we definitely intend to have more focus on the product, both in retail and distribution. We definitely want to continue to be an affordable footwear fashion brand. We don't intend to become a premium brand. We intend to premiumize within the affordable fashion segment itself. We want to continue to be catering to the entire family for all occasions, so across all merchandise categories. Intend to grow the retail business by 10 to 12% year on year, and distribution by around 15% year on year. In terms of gross margins, when you're comparing it to the other retail brands, you are seeing mainly the company-owned outlet margins. So if you compare on a like-to-like basis, for that margin, we pretty much are in place there. Our margin is very comparable to the other brands when it comes to the gross margin. Why you're seeing it relatively lower is because we also have the franchisee business where we sell to the franchisee with a certain giving them a certain amount of distribution margin, retail margin, leaving some amount of margin basically on the table for them to be able to earn money. So that's where the average margin reduces. But on a product gross margin, we are pretty much comparable to all the other brands.
All right. Thank you. And I think just one last question. So I think you said we are looking for 80 to 100 new stores in FY22. Any distribution in terms of regions, like how are they placed? Because we are mostly concentrated on the east side. We are trying to get into the other regions. So is there any distribution that's been targeted for these 100 stores?
Sorry, your question is for the stores. What is your question?
So the new stores, the 80 to 100 stores across the company-owned model and the franchisee that we are targeting in FY22. So is there any distribution that we are targeting across the regions, basically?
You're asking in terms of where will we open the store?
Correct. In terms of the regions, like how are we trying to distribute those?
So we're looking at the northern side, the north, the northeast, the north, which includes the UP, Bihar, southern region, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, some of the western parts of Gujarat, Maharashtra. So I think it's not specific to any particular area. We're pretty much looking at a pan-India presence.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. A reminder to all the participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Mr. Girish Pai. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I had a few questions. You mentioned 80 to 100 stores. How many of them would be COCO stores?
So the COCO stores will be around 5 to 7. We are looking at predominantly focusing on franchisees this year in terms of both allocation of capital and protecting the P&L as well, in terms of the fixed cost.
So the other question is regarding gross margin. 4Q gross margin for the distribution business said, I think if I recall the numbers were significantly better both on a YOY and a QOQ basis. Is there any specific reason? Is that a one-off or you think that's a sustainable trend?
So we're definitely looking at a gross margin increase year on year. The reasons are both. One is the price increases and even the premiumization, change in the sales mix, product mix enhancement. The increased trend will definitely continue. We will continue focusing on trying to ensure that our product mix will lead to a growth in gross margin on a yearly basis across retail and distribution both.
My last question is regarding your distribution business. Obviously you most likely working through multi-brand distributors. If you have stricter terms, do you think they will kind of tilt their business more towards the other brands, or what do you think is going to incentivize them to sell your products?
So in terms of the tightening of norms, I think every brand has its own credit policy and CD policy, so as to ensure that they are recovering the money faster than the others. We were a bit, I believe we were a bit lenient, and I think we were trying to just correct that. It's not that we are becoming stricter than the other brands. We are pretty much similar to the other brands. And your second question was, sorry, can you repeat that?
No, I was asking whether, because of stricter norms, whether they will tilt more towards your other peers, and what are the incentives for them to sell your products?
So, as I said, we're not more stringent compared to the other brands. I believe we were more lenient compared to the other brands. I think we are just correcting our leniency and becoming more fairer, I would believe. And what is it for them to sell our brand is our brand recall. Yeah? I mean, we have a strong brand in our existing markets, and I think products. We have the right product range, and I think we're building on that as well. So I think it is in their interest also to sell the product because there's demand for the kind of products that we're offering.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vikas Shah from AQ Capital Limited. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Just a quick question. Could you share the breakup of your revenue in terms of EVA, PU, PVC, and Hawaii?
This year it has been more open footwear based, so I'm not sure if this year would be a good benchmark to judge the business at all. I would believe that Hawaii, PVC, EVA contribute almost in normal times. It contributes almost 80% of the business. Balance your PU, sports sandals, formal shoes contribute 20% of your business.
Okay. Okay, that was helpful. Also, typically, now what is the total capacity and the utilization, and what is the capex typically involved for in incremental capex rather?
Last year we have had a capex of around 3 crores for the total business. So whereas the mold means in factory it was around 40 to 50 lakhs of mold investment last year.
Mm-hmm.
But generally in a year means in this year we'll be going for a new press line, so that will be having an investment of around 1 crore. So it will increase our capacity. Right now we are having a capacity of around 1,20,000 Hawaii per day. So that will be increased to around 1,40,000 pair per day.
Okay. And what is the current utilization?
In case of Hawaii, it's around 90% utilization, and in case of PVC, it is 60 to 65% utilization.
Okay, that was helpful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. A reminder to all the participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. As there are no further questions, I will now hand the conference over to Mr. Girish Pai for closing comments.
Yeah, with that we come to the interaction with the Khadim management. Would like to thank it for giving us this opportunity to host this call. Thank you all for taking part and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and interest. Appreciate it and look forward to connecting with you soon again.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Nirmal Bang Institutional Equities Private Limited, that concludes conference. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.